Hey, y'all. Figured I would just record a quick video today to kind of talk about a thought I've had for a while. This is kind of going to be philosophical. Um, so I want to start building in public. Um, and one thing I just want to kind of lay out initially is I don't want to just chase things for the sake of chasing things. I don't think that's a good way to exist. I think what happens is people find some level of success, and then once they hit that, they're like, what's the next level of success? And they just keep doing that over and over and over again. They do it so long, and it's rewarded them so much that they don't know how to stop. Because, like, it seems like you're on some sort of treadmill all the time. I think it's called the hedonic treadmill or something like that. Because I think what the reality is that humans live in the margins, right? This was the concept that I was talking about, and I think people have talked about this quite a lot, but we live in the margins. We live in the change to the status quo, not the status quo. The status quo is where we exist, but that's not where our head is at. That's not what drives us, what motivates us. What motivates us are the changes that can happen in regards to the status quo, right? It's like, how much more can I get? Oh, how much will this set me back? It's not about the current. And I think that's a giant failing in us as humans. I used to think when I was younger, ambition was, a great virtue in and of itself. But these days, I don't think that anymore. I think there's a place for ambition, but it needs to be tempered. And I think the people that I really find the most fascinating, not necessarily the most strong or anything like that, but just fascinating, and I find myself envious of, are the people that are just happy with where they are, like genuinely satisfied with where they're at. Not the people that are scared to do something, so they just stay complacent, but people who are genuinely satisfied with who they are and where they're at. I think that's a tremendous amount of power. I think that maybe they're the only ones that see the world for what it actually is. I don't know. It's just hard to say because everybody else is chasing these margins. They're chasing the marginal gains, you know? And I'm not saying there's not inherent value in that, or there's not something real there, because there is. Absolutely there is, right? But at least to us humans. So what do I mean by this? Well, I was watching Breaking Bad a while ago, and I remember there was a scene where Gale was like, "Oh, I can distill it down to 98% purity, but that last 2%, that's where everything is, right? Like that last 2% is everything." And I was just like, "Huh, that's so stupid. It's 2% fucking. Who cares?" um, but now it makes much more sense, because that 2% is like, it's the marginal 2%. It's the change from what you already have. It is the most. It's going from incredibly good to perfect. It's like the marathon that was just run last month, and two people for the first time ever, two people broke the 2 hour marathon mark, right? The sub 2 hour mark. Nobody had ever done a sub 2 hour marathon before, ever, except these two people. Now, on the same race, one guy was like, I don't know, 20 seconds slower than the other guy. Maybe. It's very, like, there's barely any difference between the two. Except there's a universe of difference between them, because one of them was the first to ever break a 2 hour marathon, and the other was just some guy who ran a 2 hour marathon second, right? It doesn't make any fucking sense that we think of it like this. It's incredibly impressive what they both did. Like, physically, they're almost the same as far as like their capabilities go, right? Except one guy is first. He'll go down in history. The other guy, people will remember, but it's just, I don't know, the difference between the marginal differences, man. It's just such a strange concept. It makes no sense, and it makes perfect sense. Um, but I don't know how much of this is like trained. Our tendency to live in the margins and sort of chase margins. I don't know how much of that is like trained by society, and especially these days with social media and consumerism and ads everywhere, always making you feel like you're less than, um, without having the thing, and they're specifically designed for that. I don't know how much of that is learned from this sort of stuff, and how much of that we just have inbuilt into us, into like our dopamine system. Um, but what I do know is I don't want to be a slave to that. Um, so I mean that's really the whole thing. It's just an interesting concept of how we're always living in the margins. And it's, you know, not a novel concept at all. People talk about this all the time. But it's just one that I wanted to talk about a little bit, because I think we need to be, if we're going to be moving goalposts, we need to know exactly why we're doing it. Because what you don't want is to be stuck on that thing and think you're just chasing success, whatever that is, without realizing it's just going to end in nothing at the end anyway. I think what we all need to do, more or less these days, is get better at being happy with exactly where we are at any given moment. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think, if anybody even watches this, but that was just sort of my weird philosophical rant on, human motivation, I guess. Anyway, take it easy. Good talking to y'all.